and brimstones kind of discussion. No, maybe not. So you know everyone here, so we are not going to bother with detailed bios or anything. There are people here representing editorial, publishing, marketing, and sales. No authors. Well, I will hold the flag up for all writers. I'm going to start by asking each of you very quickly. Okay, we have a lot of people and we have time, but not all that much time. So very quickly, first, I want you to tell me, each of you, one great thing that has happened to publishing in the past 2 or 3 years, and one thing that you wish hadn't happened, aka bad thing. Yes, Amrita.
Writes for our books, and that hurts you, that you sort of carry that wound forward, and you wonder what it is that we need to do to make our authors global, to make our authors more visible, more international, more read, more translated.
Great, thank you. So more data, but our books are not selling over there. Their books are selling over here. A point that we'll come back to later.
Yeah, I'm actually going to echo really what Amrita has been saying. I think over the past year, I think one of the most exciting things that happened in Indian publishing was how we saw this Malayalam book, which was published several years ago. And something happened and it really picked up, and you saw these phenomenal sales happening of that book, So, I was looking at some of the data around book publishing and sales recently, and so the top books that were being sold in India currently, they were all selling above 100K, which is really exciting, and it's quite gives you a sense of optimism that your books can do so well. Not all books may sell that number, but hopefully that means there are more readers out there, more readers growing. To think of a negative, again, I'm echoing Amrita. The rising, for whatever reasons, the rising prices of books, and piracy has been a huge problem in India, and elsewhere, of course. But if the prices of books rise, which means parallelly piracy is going to rise, because you do not want to spend that amount on books, So how do we tackle that, So those are things that needs to be collectively thought about, and we do need the government to address it as well,
Okay, thank you. It's interesting that piracy hurts both publishers and authors' interests financially, but actually means more readers, which is a bit ironic and something you want to look away from. But authors would love it. You're being read by more people. No? Karthika, also, since you've been a publisher for many, many years, if you can also give us a sense of what kind of books we are talking about when we're talking about the great thing and the bad thing. Somehow at the back of my mind, I've been thinking fiction, literary books and so on, but maybe it's more than that.
Right, okay. So I'm going to also add on to the same point really about the best that's happened. One of them is this efflorescence of it's actually cross-pollination that's happening among languages. I don't think it's really about English language alone or Malayalam or Telugu, etc. But Malayalam, the subtitling of Netflix and Prime and films, I think, have made a big difference even to the way in which we read and think about translation. So I think that language growth is one thing. And connected to that is also, I think, a greater focus, which comes with a greater sense of realism. What you were saying, Chiragh, you have a problem that your counterparts are not looking at internationally at your books. As publishers who do not have an international wing at all, I think a lot of us are very realistic about the fact that our writers are for this market. The publishing we do is for Indian readers, and it's in our interest to grow the Indian market rather than constantly think about how to make our writers global. And I think that's part of this translation plus English sort of growth that's happening. And in that process, I think nonfiction has won out. A great deal of investigative writing, politics, history, popular history, all of these categories, you're not looking to the West to buy these. You know that this is relevant and urgent here. And so books like, say, a Neha Dixit or Rahul Bhatia, to mention two writers who've come up with books this year, or a Manu Pillai, who writes history, which of course is being published internationally, but you see that the readers are very much here in India as well. I think that difference, that in focus and ambition, is something that is going to be one of the best parts of Indian publishing as we go along. The worst, yes, GST is very much there, but also one of the worst things that I think is happening now is our inability to decipher what is literature and what is not literature. When some writers who are ghost-written writers coming off celebrity culture or social media celebrity culture are writing books that become the biggest books of the year or the century or whatever, I think we do great injustice to good writing, and that is an issue that I think more needs to be talked about and done, and I'm not happy with that situation.
Thank you. That's definitely one of the things we'll talk about. But it's hard to argue with the fact that at least two such books have both sold upwards of 100,000 copies in the past few months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. HarperCollins has published Prajakta Kohli's book, which has sold about 1.2 lakh copies, I believe. And Penguin has been publishing Ritvik. Sorry?
Ankur Warikoo?
No, not Ankur Warikoo.
The poet.
Yes.
I love
Yes. Ritvik's book, which is also sold upwards of 1 lakh copies. So, there is, okay, we'll come to this later, but just to point out that many publishers are actually, initially it was, you're an author, you must be on social media. Now they're being wiser and they're saying, why bother? You're on social media and big, now be an author. Much easier, right? So, yeah. Now, look, I mean, we can sneer, but the books are selling, the money is coming in. If that money is being channeled into doing other kinds of books, great. That's why we used to think in the past that the more bestsellers my publisher has, the better it is. But now somehow even that's not working out. The money is going somewhere else. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Yes. Manoj. Have the mic? Yes, have the mic. Take it for 10 minutes. And as a representative of the market, biggest publishing company, tell us everything.
I think most of the speakers have already spoken about, the pros and the challenges. General thing is that there is a growth in the readership. People are reading more books, and that is shown in the numbers. So rather than going into the subjectivity of it, I think the ups of the market is there is a rise in readership. The challenges is, of course, how do we define a quality content versus, a mass selling content, and what should be, the right decision for a publisher. Again, it's a difficult choice to make, and I think that's a big challenge.
That's the good thing. What's bad?
Bad thing is that this actually, how do one make a decision on what is the right choice for publishing when you look at from, a decision making of a publishing company, which is a publisher of mixed genres.
Okay. I'm a bit confused, but we'll get clarity.
Yeah, I'll give clarity.
Okay, so I think the victory of Tomb of Sand, and I'm going to talk about translations particularly. I think the fact that an Indian book, a Hindi book, won the Booker Prize and allowed Gitanjali Shree to cross over to becoming a global writer has been one of the best things for me, because I do translations and I like to read translations from regional Indian languages into English. And I think in the last 3 years, that has been an incredibly positive thing that's happened to Indian publishing, in that we are now able to hope and plan to make our regional writers writing in Kannada, Bengali, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Malayalam, we are able to plan to make their translations available across the world. So for me, that's been a great thing. And I hope that that grows and we are able to capitalize on that and do more of that. Bad things, I feel like, I think Arunava has said this in a panel where he said, I think the biggest competitor now is Netflix. And everybody is reading on Reels and on Instagram and watching Netflix and OTT. Books require time and space. You need to give it that time and spend that time with that book. And the rewards of that experience speak for itself. But I don't know, when you have something to watch and something to scroll over, how much of time you want to spend on that book. So I feel like increasingly I see more people are reading on Instagram and not spending time reading 200 pages of a book. So yeah.
No, I know. Yeah, I think I see everything that rest of us have said is true. Like, we are in that direction. And it is all happening in things. I can see the dots connecting where we talk about piracy. We talk about literature festivals, the number of festivals in the country. I think every city has one now, which is
There are at least
fantastic.
7 running right now.
Which is
Different parts
fantastic.
of India.
It's right. So what is happening from the consumption point of view? We spoke about language publishing, Indian language publishing. So the data that I know, like if English language market is growing at say 15% year on year, language is growing at 30% year on year. I'm talking about number of units sold, right? So that's a remarkable thing. Good stuff is coming. At the same time, you say, okay, piracy is selling. Piracy is growing. Right? It's a threat. But as you said, authors feel sometimes happy that, okay, my book is popular. So this is all indication that the base is getting stronger. In future, the country will see far more publishing, more literary publishing, more commercial publishing, bigger numbers, more steep spikes. All of that is, I can see it happening in the next few years. After this, this COVID, the way market has moved, the number of new independent stores that have come in the country. Passionately, people are, just giving them a character. Like, for example, I saw a store in Mumbai called Fictionary. The guy who's running was into some big tech company. Dropped that, has doing that. Many such examples across the country. So it gives me a very optimistic picture. And more choice for publishers, more choice for authors to just pick up all kind of subjects. I think it's very good. We are in a very good place.
My goodness, I've actually just heard you say 2 things that I thought were just going in the opposite direction.
Please.
In the sense that one of the questions I was going to ask is whether we are publishing too many books.
No.
We are not. Okay. Just to take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Some time ago, the CEO of Penguin Random House in India, Gaurav was at Ashoka University talking to the School for Entrepreneurs. And he said that 15% of the books that Penguin publishes every year actually meet their financial targets. That doesn't mean break even, but meet their financial targets, which means 85% don't. And they publish around 300 books a year, which means 15 into 3, 45. 45 titles meet their financial target out of 300. So maybe more books mean 45 will go to 60 or 70 and so on. But there'll also be a huge bunch of books that will not make it.
If you don't experiment, you will never get those 45.
Fair. And just earlier today, we heard Hindi writers say that there are now many towns across India where there are no bookshops anymore.
Sadly, yes.
But you're telling us the number of bookshops is
Number
growing.
of bookshops are growing, but the base is so small.
Base is small. Right.
So
And
new are coming, but yeah.
one bookshop comes up and we talk about it like it's a big
Oh,
thing.
I dance.
Yeah, like Fictionary. Yeah. Unfortunately, Wayward and Wise closed down to balance the scales in Bombay.
Many will come up.
No, more will come up. Yes, of course. Okay, yes, let's hear about Hindi publishing or anything else.
Yeah.
Although everyone's been talking about Indian
So
language.
I will speak for languages. Mostly I work in Hindi and other languages. So I am seeing that Hindi publication and language publication is picking up. Because earlier we used to have 2,000 or 3,000 copies of print run target. But now I am having a target of around 10,000 print run for the first year. So this is a good thing for us. Secondly, the hunger for knowledge production book, mostly non-fiction, biography, are growing up in Hindi. So we are seeing that biography and non-fiction book, historical books mostly, even international biography, science books are picking up in Hindi, and not fictions are not doing well. So this is good news for me, and bad news is that as per the population, this is not growing. We have 60-70 crore of Hindi people, but most youth are busy in making reels and making video. So this is not good number that we are projecting only 10,000 print. So this is good and bad also.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's a great overview of what's going on. would any of you like to talk about the fact that publishing as a business will obviously focus its resources on where it's going to get the most returns? But, and I'm floating a hypothesis here, that in some way this now seems to be divergent from the idea of producing great literature for the ages. Now, feel free to say yes or no and tell us what you think. Anyone? Karthika.
I think it's a balance, Arunava. I mean, we need to make revenue, we need to grow, we need to pay salaries to people, we need to do all of that. But the singular problem in this whole thing is not really about our choices or our decision. The problem, the thing that really sucks up the energy in publishing is the fact that the distribution system does not work and the money does not come in. If we publish a book today and we put it out into the market and credit periods are very long, so we're not even expecting that we will be paid within, well, let's say 2 months, 3 months. But the situation is that we will perhaps not get paid for 6 months. And people, distributors, people who hold stock from publishers, and I'm guessing it's more or less true for a lot of us, if they owe somebody 10 lakhs, they will pay them 4 lakhs and say, I'll pay you later. Now, it's okay for the bigger publishers maybe, where there is constant cash flow and, turnover, but you cannot have small publishing grow. You cannot have a publisher with, say, 10 books or 12 books that they want to dedicate to quality publishing or whatever it is. They cannot grow because unless they are paid, they can't print the next book. And this is something that I find reprehensible, that we cannot come together as an industry and say, listen, if a distributor does not pay one publisher, every publisher has to say, we will not supply you anymore. This is what happens in the media. And I've been told that if somebody defaults on payment to one media house, there is a way in which no one will pay or no one will work with that person anymore till they pay. We don't have any such arrangements. So it's like the divisions keep growing. The bigger publishing houses will grow. The smaller ones will keep struggling because there is no unity on this ground. So this, to my mind, is a problem that needs to be solved for everything else to be resolved.
Well, that's a very important point. But tell me, let's say you're owed money for 3 years, but surely the money that's owed from 3 years ago is coming in.
I wish I could say yes, but no. Then they will be like, oh, listen, these books didn't sell. Why don't you just take them back?
But did they not sell?
Well, clearly they have stock of many books. Some books may have sold, but they'll return some other books that did sell. So it's a vicious cycle,
And they obfuscate everything till you give up.
Yeah, I think at any point here, anybody in sales
Yes.
will have money being owed to them.
Yes. I think, to Karthika's point, the challenge is, to some extent, is to the distribution, but I think also to the readership. How much, readers are able to consume of the publishing that is coming their way. To my point, like, if I have to quote some data and statistics, in a developed readership like US and UK, the average number of books that readers read in a year are about 15 to 20. And the same data statistics tell that in India, it is about 4 to 5. Now, within that 4 to 5, the unique proposition that India has a trade market is 60 to 70% of Indian market readership is backlist. Backlist means they are consuming the existing bestsellers. And this is very unique to India because US as a market is about 20-25% backlist market, and that too during COVID and post-COVID. Prior to that, they were not even expecting 10% of revenues from the backlist sales. So the irony is that we have readership who consumes 4 to 5 books in a year. And within that 4 to 5, they are highly relying upon the existing bestsellers. We are the only market where, the bestsellers have been growing year on year. And I think that is the challenge with the frontlist publishing, that it doesn't get that much of attention by virtue of visibility, word of mouth, and also the time span that they can spend at the bookshelf in a bookstore. And to add to that challenge, every year you will have more bestsellers which are going to capture more retail space. And therefore, you have even smaller space for frontlist titles. And that is the challenge which we have to address. And therefore, your point about distribution challenge and, a lot of books coming back after so much of time because they were not discovered.
But I just want to be paid for the books that they took. That's all I'm saying.
But the challenge is, unless the bookseller sells the book to the readers, I think if we we are looking at B2B case studies, to your point, but we have not yet looked at from the perspective to the B2C, how the things are coming back.
Can I
from
say
the
something?
B2C perspective.
Sorry. Are the retailers making enough effort to actually sell those books is my question. We have retailers like Midland in Delhi, Blossoms in Bangalore, who actually know what the books they are selling. They recommend the books. And if you compare the amount of literary fiction that goes out of these stores is commendable. They're not selling popular fiction. So I really feel that the reader, even the bookstores, are not trying to make an effort in knowing what the books are.
Well,
And
very
it's
fair
easy,
point.
It's easy to sell a Namish, it's easy to sell a Chetan.
Absolutely.
So I think some...
To your point, I completely agree. I think we need more independent bookstores run by people who know what they are selling. A lot of time, it's a book supermarket where people do their own shopping. You don't have staff who can recommend books. You don't have staff who know the book that is on the shelf to its core. People are looking around for something good, but they end up picking up the ones which are highly promoted in the stacks and on the front shelves. And therefore, a lot of time publishers are fighting for that front space, paid spaces, or, doing a lot of POS material to get their book in front of. So unfortunately, again, coming back to the point about readership, the readers are feeding their own choices basis of the crowdsourced information they are getting from social media. And that is unfortunate. In the other readership, you will see Barnes and Nobles or why Waterstone came back in the UK with so much of uniqueness because of the knowledge of what they sell. They have Waterstone Book of the Month every month, and they create special editions. They offer a special treatment to the people who are walking into their stores rather than, giving them the same stuff that somebody can buy from Amazon or 40% or discount. So bookstore also need to have a unique offering to the customers to come back, and the quality. I think what bookstore are there to offer is something which is not crowdsourced. If it is crowdsourced, somebody can buy from Amazon and there is no need for a bookstore. I think, again, B2C, how do retailers make an impact? Very good point. I think retailers need to make a solid impact by knowing their products.
I think, sorry, one more point when we were talking about the good things that have happened. I think are the subscription boxes. Champaka, for instance, introduces so many good crime thrillers. I think my reading happens from Champaka's subscription box. They introduce new writers. The discoverability fact comes from Champaka. I think such initiatives, retailers, publishers have to start introducing.
Okay, thank you, Rahul. You want to add to that, the retail story? And also, I want to know what percentage of sales is from on-ground book sales anyway, bookshops anyway. How much of it is online?
So currently you can assume like 50-50 what Beck sells from the physical stores and online.
And are the trends very different?
In case of bestsellers, yes, they are, everybody's trying to sell the same things. But I think what a retailer as a physical store, what they offer is quite unique. That's why people love to go back there, because in India, we always go for safe buy. Even if I'm spending 500 rupees, I want reassurance. Yeah, a lot of people have read it. It is good. I should buy this. Why experiment with a new book which might not work? So that's one thing. But on the solution side, we have spoken about the problem. I think, the publishers, big or small, all of them, it's available for them. They are at a fantastic intersection of reader, author, and technology. So the challenge and the task for them is to make use of that opportunity. They are doing fantastic work where raw stuff comes to them as a manuscript. They convert it into something, give a nice cover, put a price, say it is for this target audience, and take care of distribution, and all of that happens. Now, in terms of telling about it to the target audience, we have to make better use of social media, whatever medium our readership is in whatever medium they are consuming the information, where they get to see the book, right? You know, all this TikTok is not here, but Instagram is there and many other channels are there. So we have to make better use of it, use that language. And it's not something which I believe from the beginning. I'm also learning as we go.
Why don't that should be easy? There's so many people.
People are trying. Everybody is trying. I think I would not say that we are not doing it, but there is fantastic opportunity to make better use of all these technologies and all these mediums which are available. Otherwise, what we will do, we can wind sitting here, but otherwise, if you use, you know, all kind of people who are like, I see when young people walk into your office, their point of view, their language, their understanding, their handle on technology, everything is very, very different from people who have been doing a certain kind of work. There is a scope to, I think that should be leveraged.
Okay. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yes,
Young
please.
people speak to their peers.
Yeah.
But this is not a segment with deep pockets. They're
Yeah.
not going to be your main book buyers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, just a point.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
But can you take a minute to explain to us why HarperCollins chose to publish a book that is written in Hindi but in Roman? I mean, it's written in the Roman alphabet, English letters, but it's a Hindi book.
That's a call. It is decided between the author and the editor.
That's a tremendous move. But I'm just wondering, did it work?
See,
Did
when
it
we
get
say we have to experiment,
Yeah.
like many years ago, I remember a book by some author where the whole book was published in the SMS language, like how you write SMS. And it was a mix of 60% Hindi, 40% English. And we decided, yeah, why not? Because we showed a couple of colleagues who were much younger than us. And they said, yeah, this is how I read. I said, okay, let's put the book in the market.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
worked,
no.
but didn't work.
Were you
So
with Penguin then?
I was.
So that's right? Penguin put out books where you have whole bunches of SMS
Even we were-
messages,
I mean, whichever. I mean,
which
I'm now in
people
HarperCollins.
use copy to send to their lovers or to flirt. They're guidebooks.
These experiments have to happen.
No,
in my
it's
opinion.
it's terrific. I'm really thrilled. I just wish we could do more of these in the space where the books will be there for the ages.
There will be books which will be there for the ages, and there will be books which will come. People will talk about them, read them, and forget them.
Yeah, but in our country, the book for the ages is the monk who sold his Ferrari. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so now the key question, which everybody wants not to be asked. Who takes the decisions on what to publish today? Be honest. Okay, what we'll talk about here will stay here. All right? But let's, yeah. Everyone's tweeting. But yeah, just tell us who takes the decisions really, because as a writer, I'm very often told, and this is across publishers, we love your book, but sales says we can only, and then it trails off. So who really takes the decision on what to publish, how much to publish, what the ambition is for that book, which in turn will determine how much the authors can expect as an advance payment, and indeed how long the publisher will be interested in that book, beyond the editors praising it.
You're asking me?
All of you.
All right, I'll have a go.
Yes, Chiragh.
I'm lucky to be in a space and having been in spaces where it's been truly collaborative. I think I'm not going to be the person who says that, oh, sales and marketing control too much of the stakes in what we publish. Often publishers have to wear a hat of a product manager. Often we have to think of it not necessarily as people who are very passionate about that book and that story, but we also have to think of it as a product, a finished thing that will go out into the world, on which there'll be a barcode, on which there'll be a price. And that is something you will have to consult your sales and marketing people on. And increasingly, we see a lot of this is becoming data-driven, which is why that's the good thing, I think, in the beginning, when you ask what's been working, what's not been working. And I think when in these acquisition meetings, what we call acquisition meetings, when the marketing, the sales, the various people who sit on these meetings see in the editor's eyes and words the passion with which you back up a project, you get the numbers you want to get, right? So finally, I think it comes down to the editors, the publisher's instinct, and the sales and marketing team then take a cue from that. There are times when they come and tell us that, hey, this is a trend we are noticing, again, a data-driven trend, that is a underpublished segment that we could tap into. Perhaps we could look for young talent or existing talent in this and platform some of those voices, which are untapped genres or areas and things that may be working. So it's a very collaborative process. It's been one for me, and I've enjoyed this. I don't think it should be entirely a sales call. I don't think it should entirely be a publisher's call. It should be a call taken together.
You see, I think one of the things that we can all say collaboratively is that we are all, I mean, as editors, salespeople, marketing, we're also looking at our publishing program as a whole. So we are not just, when we are sitting in on a meeting and discussing what books to do for 2025, 2026, we are considering what books we have done, we are planning to do, and what more we can do, which is where gap areas come in. So we haven't done really a lot of, say, mystery thrillers this year. What can we explore? So someone brings in a mystery thriller, that becomes more interesting for us to consider. And I think everybody is very collaborative on that, in that we all want to get together and think of the publishing program that lies ahead of us for this year and the next. And so our decisions at acquisitions meetings are also based on what we want to do, what we have not done. And that is obviously a collaborative decision because it is based on the data that we have.
And some instinct.
And some instinct, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, others? Yes, Manoj.
I think Chiragh has very well put through the, how the teams collaborate to bring out, the creative vision that an editor has and mapping it to the commercial sensibilities or viabilities that sales can bring to the table. And to top up that, I think the marketing colleagues in that meeting would add up the scope of marketing and publicity. So it's a truly collaborative effort. And when we publish, I think the reason why publishers have different imprints, because they don't want to map every kind of publishing to one bucket of, the measurement of the commercial viability. And therefore, different imprints works at different commercial levels in terms of print runs, in terms of advances and all. I think, and it is important to have, view perspective of everything. The publishing also happens two ways. One is, publishing for a known audience, wherein you are very calculative with the data, the market direction, and then you try to bring out something which maps to the TG. But also, it is about forward looking by having a content for which you create the TG. But in both cases, it is collaborative.
I do think that, and if you ask Manoj separately, he will tell you that the acquisition editor is always trying to bulldoze over him and not the other way around.
I'm sure both of you feel that the other person has the upper hand.
We are often bullying our sales guys, and we get our way through.
I would like to add here, I think this question of bullying the sales guy, which means that you have to push back, So it's exciting for me that at Simon & Schuster, so much of the acquisition is editorial driven, So we work on our instincts for the books, the books we are excited about, and I definitely like all the inputs I can get from the different teams, from sales, from marketing, and all of their perspective. But it's just exciting to publish, to be able to publish what we want to publish, So, and see how that goes, and take, everyone goes along on that, and.
Okay. Before I come to Karthika for this, I want to hear how it works in Hindi publishing for you.
So this is 51% editorial and 49% sales. But sales people are behaving like traditional husbands, encouragingly.
Oh, sorry, like what?
Traditional husbands.
And they are very focused on what's selling in the market.
Right.
So, but we are still having our ground, but it is 51% for editors and 49% for sales.
Thin majority. Okay.
I think,
Yeah, no, Rahul, please.
It is, see, there is always what he said, it was absolutely right. It's a collaborative thing. There is a process how one has to buy. The way I personally, in my experience, how I work is that, each of my colleagues in editorial are doing 8, 10, 12, 15 books in a year. Nobody 15, I think, less than 8 to 10 to 12. But so they have a scope to choose what kinds, when, what, because when we commission a book, you are also committed to the author and you have to do justice. You have to make your best effort to market it well, sell it well, take it to the readership wherever it can go. So all of that will happen when everybody has a buy-in and they're saying, yes, we are together in it. And it happens only in a collaborative way. There is no other way around it. If there can be a big debate, a very, a kind of book where the sales can have an opinion, the data doesn't support, but it's very new kind of writing. My colleagues will, or any editorial colleagues will feel very dejected. Like, I have no freedom to do anything. So if you're talking about a creative business where, new kind of stuff has to come to the market, you have to give them that space. And being collaborative is the only way that it can work. And that's how I have always seen it happening. It's still happening the same way. So there is now no other way around.
I just want to quickly add to this that if it were entirely publishing driven, which I love that it's largely publishing driven at Simon & Schuster, but I love a challenge. Challenge me. Ask me why I think this book would work. We need to find, and I would love to challenge you back in sales and marketing. What is it about a similar book that didn't work last time? Maybe we didn't market it well. So much of the conversation this evening has been about translations, but I have been at publishing houses where translations are treated like a stepchild. And publishing houses prefer to spend actual money on books they know will sell and outsource the marketing and publicizing of under-discovered voices, books that don't do well, to literally vendors outside the company. So there is that problem where do you put that marketing budget? Do you put it in what you know is likely to sell, make you the money, but then do you not owe an ethical responsibility to also ensure that a list that has been struggling with the problem of discoverability, visibility, also ought to be given monetary, marketing, sales-driven support to make sure that it sort of finds audiences?
Okay. Karthika, you once said, I hope you're not going to disown this. You once said that this preponderance of data means we cannot do new things. We're always trying to do a newer version of the same thing.
I said that. No, I was actually thinking, no, data is a problem. You were talking about this, Chiragh, earlier, that finally we have data. The problem with data is that it's self-perpetuating. So something is a bestseller today, somebody else will say, okay, then I should do something similar. And every time you look for data to support experimental publishing, you won't find it. Then you have to find the reason that you're a responsible publisher with ideals, and therefore you have to publish it. And then if it becomes a hit, it becomes a reason to do more like that. But that will cease to be experimental and will become more of the same. So there is a problem with trusting data too much. And the only thing I have to add to this collaborative conversation is that Westland, I think, works a little differently because colleagues in editorial and marketing think about it together, not as two different departments trying to find common ground, but as all of us are readers. Our marketing colleagues read perhaps more widely than editors because we reread the same manuscript so many times and they have the luxury of reading books. So together you arrive at what you want to do, and sales is actually one step removed from that. I wouldn't combine sales and marketing as one thing. In Closer is marketing and editorial, and we discuss the project from the point of view of content and ideas and what it can do. And I must say that sales often kind of says, all right, I mean, if you guys think we should do this, we'll do our best to sell this book. And okay, some data supports it, some data doesn't. But the thing about sales, and I find this really amazing, I think this is the department in every publishing house in India for sure that has the hardest job. They have to go to retail that is indifferent. They have to go to people who don't really care. They don't, often the shop floor guys don't know what they're selling. Books of one category will sit on a shelf in another place, and they have to fight all of this. And if you're working for a publishing house which is smaller, as I kind of keep reiterating, you do know that the bestseller lists on, say, airports or other stores, you do know that when shelves show books up, it's because somebody's paid for those books to be there. It's not as though those have risen to the top on their own. So if you have money and you will buy shelf space, which is often as much as like 50,000 to a lakh or whatever, you're paying month after month to booksellers to just stock your books and make them visible. How can it be that a small publishing house can even afford visibility? So there are inherent problems in the system that means that sales has such a struggle to get anything sold. And so I would say that, yes, they do get bullied a bit, but not really bullied. They just sort of fall in because they're like, because there is no other way around it.
So the point here is, as you said, marketing, editorial, and sales separate. You keep the sales separate. He was talking in length about how little the retailers know about the books. That is a consequence of sales knowing little about the book. So from the beginning, if they are a part of your conversation,
The sales guy.
right? From the beginning, if it is he is included, the department or people are included.
But I'm saying.
So then they work on the idea together, and the understanding is same.
No.
This is the content. This is the target audience. This is the marketing happening around the book, and
Rahul,
how else will people know?
You're being very idealistic now. You know that the guy on the shop floor does not care, does not know the books. Your sales guy might go and tell them, look, this is a brilliantly written literary book. Does the guy care? No. Are there any women on any shop floor? No. So is there a selection that is happening willy-nilly of the kind of books that should be given visibility? Sure. Is there any diversity on the shop floor? No. Is there diversity anyway that says a certain kind of book should...
There are bookshops in the country which are very, very good, and then there are one who just follow a format that, okay, from my head office somebody told me put this book here, I'll put it here, whatever it is. We have always seen it. So there will be those kind, and the guy on the floor will be selling books today, maybe in the next showroom shoes tomorrow. That problem cannot be solved, right? But the core team which is backing the book from the publisher side, the publisher, editor, sales, marketing, they all have to be on the same platform with the same understanding, and multiple conversations have to happen around the book before it hits the market. That will bring everybody to the same level. So there is no difference between the publisher is talking or the marketing person is talking. We all know what we are talking, who we are talking, and what is our purpose here. That understanding can be built, should be built in every house, whether it is big or small, and it works.
I think, Rahul, I would like to add here, to your point, I think it sounds very idealistic that, the sales get involved in all the discussions. But if
not all the discussion, just to bring them to the understanding.
No, I'm just trying to get there.
Knowing the product.
Between your company and my company, we know how many books does one sales guy represent into the market.
How many?
I mean, in a month, they would represent about 300 new releases across local and international. So one cannot expect
One
them.
person does that. Yeah. One sales guy
In each region.
is in charge of sales of 300 titles.
So they are the ones who are taking the new releases across the local publishing and the international distribution to the market. And, it is practically impossible for a sales guy to qualitatively know every book. And of course, they can know the few big ones or the ones with the most promising, ambition that the publisher have. But unlike editorial, I think sales guys will not be able to have a very qualitative discussion with the retailer. The challenge here is the size of catalog that they carry. While it will feel good that, one has to get involved, and I've tried that, but, it is expecting too much from a person or a team to carry so many books in the same way. And therefore, the editorial vision and conversation with the retailers are more important than having a sales interface. When we talk about, convincing the other side of the table to promote a certain book, I think it is important for editorial/marketing to go direct, to have that qualitative conversation. Sales will fill in the distribution requirement and channelize the books to the right places.
So you guys also have to do sales now.
Yes, we
I'm not saying sales. I think it is
No,
about.
I know, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
I understand. Sorry, if I may ask something. When you say, so everyone here is talking, is unanimous about the fact that the criterion for success is selling the book. A book works, meaning it has to sell a certain number of copies. May I ask, over what period of time? Is it monthly sales, quarterly sales? What is your measure of success? Over what period?
I think.
See, now it's possible.
No.
For me, it is successful. Whatever you print in the first go,
Ah.
if you're able to sell in the first 6 months, it is fairly good.
6 months. So
Yeah.
let's say if you're printing 2,000 copies, so you need to sell it within 6 months.
Within 6
If
months,
you're
it should
printing
sell.
20,000 copies, you still need to sell it within
Yes.
6 months. Right.
But that's a that's a ballpark thing. Like,
No,
that
but-
if it
yeah,
works
no,
in
I'm
6
just
months,
trying to figure
it's
out.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that means that you don't even have backlist ambitions for these books.
See, having a backlist ambition, how will you have a backlist ambition if it doesn't sell? Right, in first 6 months, it came back.
It will never sell
Itself,
after that.
how do you expect? What else will you do about it?
Okay.
So
you're
that
saying-
happens.
You're saying that your 6 month target will also determine what its prospects are as a backlist
yeah,
title. Okay, then in that case, why is it that, as you said, the backlist dominates your sales? Are the frontlist books just not good enough anymore?
Because books coming back after 6 months, after 6 months, it slows down. There are certain books which will absolutely stop, but most of them keep trickling month after month. They keep going. That's how your catalog becomes bigger. And thanks to online sellers like Amazon and all, like I think Penguin would have more than 70, 80,000 different titles sitting in Amazon warehouse and selling. Right. So that is possible because at a certain amount, every time they keep going. So when you say backlist, say you want to run a promotion on fiction. So fiction, you have a sizable catalog. It's good. I mean, some will sell 10, some will 1, some in between. But it keeps going. And that's what the backlist means that, okay, we want to run a promotion on translations. We might have published, say, 50 or 60 over past 10 years. If the opportunity is better or, you have time and, ideas around it, they might get a new cover or, they might get into a new format. Or even if nothing else is happening, maybe they are under some special sales promo, some discount is running. So these things will keep them going. But when you are publishing a new book, even, see, the books which are selling at a certain pace, mostly they go for a reprint much faster. But even the maximum time I think we should give is about 6 months, because that's when you get your money back from the market, if you get. Within that, if it happens, it's great. Yeah.
I just want to add, I think to Rahul's point, I think 6 months is a very long timeline. Like, if you look at the retail landscape, you go to an independent store, they pack returns every 15 days. If you go and see how the independent work, because they have limited shelf space and there is a lot of front list coming through. And they also have to dedicate shelf to what is selling in their store. So if one has to go to them every week or, every fortnight, they would be packing cartons, clearing their shelves. And that is the shelf life of a book that does not move out of the bookshelf. And
there
it
is
is
a point, Aman.
unfortunate, but this is the practice that, every retailer does. And therefore leaving such a short timeline for discoverability for the book. Also, I think there was a time back in the days when people used to go to the bookstore to discover new stuff. But nowadays, that space is also taken over by a lot of buzz that you see around yourself. Social media. I think if one has to, find the real cause of why all the social media dominated books are getting to the charts, is because of the information that one is consuming and making decisions, and which leaves no room for further discoverability, qualitative discoverability that used to happen in the bookstores. I see a lot of editors talking in the covers meeting that we need a cover which is creative, that is curious, which, readers pick, and then they make a decision that this is so creative. But, lately, that discovery is not happening even in the bookstores, independent bookstore, which were known for that. And, there's so much information that readers are consuming and making their decision.
I have a question. I saw Penguin books being sold on Blinkit and Swiggy.
Yeah.
But again, the list focuses only on commercial titles. You have Chetan, you have, I think, it's a mix of titles, right? Is it because Blinkit is asking for these books, or is it because the publisher is insisting that these books have to go out?
I think the catalog choice is done by the consumer.
Who's
And-
the consumer here? Me.
I mean, the customer. Sorry,
Right,
Blinkit makes the decision.
Right.
They have a limited catalog size. So if I have to quantify it, I think, to my knowledge, I think they were saying they just want to have about 250 ISBNs in their entire offering. And they want the ones which are impulse purchases. You know, when people are, buying their groceries and milk and stuff, and then, they suddenly see a book which is impulse purchase, that's the kind of stuff they want to offer on their platform.
But I was talking to Bahari, this bookstores, and even to Midland, and a lot of impulse purchases are your Japanese fiction that's come out. A lot of Indian thrillers are there. Like, if I have the option to buy an Indian thriller or an Indian language in translation, I would pick it up from Blinkit. But is it because you're not offering the choice as an impulse buy, or you're going by what's selling in the market?
I think it's too early in their, a business cycle. They have just started. They are 6 months, I think, in the business, and they are still discovering what people want in their platform. And I think they will evolve in their choices, but right now they want to go with the ones which are proven bestsellers.
Amrita, there is one more point here that, buyers behave differently on different platforms. That's the key here. Why we use Blinkit? Because we get in 10 minutes. So the intent when we go on Blinkit, also how they are positioning themselves. Blinkit is saying we are last minute gift store. So in societies, in big cities, what happens? A kid is going to at least 5-6 birthday parties every month, right? And now you suddenly have to go, and where is the gift? So you order it on Blinkit, 10 minutes it comes. So with that philosophy, sometimes children's books, low-hanging things like big bestsellers, or giftable books, they make sense. And also, because they promise to deliver in 10 minutes, so they have to have that stock ready. In how many locations, how many books they can store. So it's more of a logistical problem, and how people behave on that platform. That decides what goes.
Fair. That's a great marketing cue actually for you guys.
I
Yes.
have a quick...
No. We need editors to see the power has gone to the sales guys, even though they claim it's not theirs.
Quick interjection. See, just to sort of come out of the specifics here and on a broader level, and to also connect to what Moutushi was saying earlier about Netflix and stuff, there is something that's happened since the tech boom, right? Since the coming and the rise and the thriving of social media, there's something happening to our attention economies. And there is a kind of blurring of lines between content, books, cinema, podcast, what you spend time in, right? How you do leisure, what you do when you've got time. So as a book publisher, as a bookseller, as a gatekeeper, as a curator of culture, as somebody who's deciding, as people who are deciding what will one day be the canon of books that worked or books that bombed, we are also competing with Bumble and Hinge and Blinkit and Netflix and Apple and Spotify. So people have time to then, enroll to a cult class, and so if 8 hours of work and 8 hours of sleep and 8 hours of what I will, and so much of that is spent scrolling or working out or brunching with friends, you've got time to do all this. Really, my question is, when is she making time? When are they making time to read? I think that's been a larger struggle for the industry. In terms of discoverability, and what remains the top tier, what remains discovered, what continues to sort of sell are your self-help books. There is this kind of utility that has been attached to books. People want to become better versions of themselves 20 pages into the book. They want to take a habit home. They want the art of this, the subtle art of that. They want to do epic things, get epic things done too. And in all this, we struggle for that translation to be found, to be discovered.
Yeah, no, fine. I mean, both publishers as well as the writers of these books, these knowledge building books as you call them, are doing well. I think our concern, in a sense, is we're not worried about them. They're fine. You'll always have somebody filling that gap, and you'll know what people want, and that's what your data will tell you. Our concern is about creating great literature for the ages. One, that goes beyond 6 months, whose success cannot, or whose quality cannot be determined by how many copies have sold in 6 months. I mean, they sell for the ages, but I guess that I feel it needs a different business model. The business model of big publishing doesn't work there. In the West, it's the Indies who are doing this. I mean, I hate to have to bring up an example from the Western market, but look at Fitzcarraldo. I don't think they look really at how many copies each title is going to sell. But in the process, they've actually created a market for their titles, to the point where people now buy a Fitzcarraldo book. They don't even care who the author is and so on, right? That blue cover or that white cover. So what I'd like to now ask you is, as you said, if the competition is with the lack of readership, what are publishing companies doing to build readership in the next generation, given that the current generation now you can write off? But what are we doing to make children read? What are we doing to bring back the idea of reading books? Or are books, can books take on a different form and so on? So I want to go around the room, starting with you, Sushant.
It's a very tough question, because what we are doing, even we don't know what we are doing. We rely on marketing people mostly. We are trying to get into district level markets, local literature festivals, local newspapers, local influencers, and that makes larger part of marketing. That is not the part of editorial things. So we are trying to push the books to the younger generation, what we call in Hindi, Nai Wali Hindi. The Hindi Yug publication started Nai Wali Hindi. That was between pulp and some lokpriya kind of literature. So it was above pulp and below literature. So that clicked for few years, but that is not the evergreen scene. So again, non-fiction came back, and again thing happened square one. So we are still struggling to find out how we should move forward to bring new readers to our fold. So we exactly don't know what to do.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Rahul?
So the most basic publishers are doing their publishing, right? That is there. But on a different note, I think we will have to continue to publish for the new audience, like the kind of clothes we were wearing in 80s, then change in 90s, and it kept changing. What we were watching as cinema, that has changed. And each new generation demands the new language. With that, we will have to match the pace. So new kind of writing in their language, and publishers we have the best of both worlds. We have the best kind of writing coming from legacy authors, established names. And there is a lot of people who are coming and, doing new kind of experimentative writing. That is also happening. And you asked about, the children's publishing, what is happening. Thanks to social media and all the literature festival, they are so Instagrammable everywhere. Everybody is. So that coziness, the romance around the whole idea of reading and everything is increasing. Look at the number of kids who are going into the schools, and the schools are buying in libraries, and the whole consumption of early learning segment. It's growing phenomenally. I have toy stores interested in books, all kind of books. Penguin has select range, which is getting into that market. This consumption is mind-boggling.
Okay, great. So things are good there.
These are good things.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Moutushi.
I don't know, make reading cool again. Like make it, sexy. Sort of like something, like NYT.
Come to that now.
Of course, why not? NYT does the 100 best books of the decade. And I think that one list has made such an impact on people. They've gone back to that list, and that curation. I think I went back to that curation and picked up books and read some of those. And I know people have picked up. I know there is this whole conversation about who decides what we are going to read. That's a different conversation. But I feel like tools like these, curations that are propelled by magazines and publishing houses, etc. We could do these for children. We could do these for young adults, that age group, and we could do this for college-going people. Like make them more visible, and let's talk about the fact that reading is an enjoyable, cool, fun experience, and you will get something back from it the same way that you get from your
Okay.
social
Thank you.
media.
Make reading cool again.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. Make reading cool, but also I think as a publishing company, we have to offer diverse content for different readership, right from the the age group 1 or 2 years to to the age group where kids can make their own choices. So if I have to talk about Penguin, we are publishing different literature for to be consumed at the different age groups. Penguin Select, which is a program that we recently launched, is meant for the beginner readers, where we are offering world-class content at very affordable prices. Then we have a Puffin program and Duckbill program, which is focused on the quality literature. In addition, we are also not just creating content for readers to find, but we are taking initiatives to find the readers for the content through schools. So we have collaborated with Madhuban, which is one of the largest school books publishers. And our partnership is to get our books as recommended readings to the school. And it's not just pure play selling, that we are not just creating a catalog, asking their sales guy. We are engaging into librarians meet. We are engaging into principals meet. In fact, we did a principals meet a couple of months ago where Sudhamurthy ma'am went there and addressed principals of at least 100 schools.
The big sells enough books, yeah.
No. It's not about her books. It's about the benefits of reading. I think the culture of reading for knowledge need to evolve as reading for leisure and pleasure. I think we need to evolve as a society of learners to readers. One who enjoys reading rather than one who opens up books to take knowledge and become a more intelligent individual. So we as a society, I think, need to evolve there. I think it will start from the schools, and we really need to start working towards that people embrace fiction, they embrace characters, they embrace stories, and not just opening books for knowledge acquisition.
Yeah. In fact, learning from books might sharply dip very quickly thanks to AI. It could happen overnight, literally.
Sorry. I'm just thinking, obviously all the points you make are the points to be repeated, but just two other sides to this. One is, I think it's about what we publish also, and what we choose to market in a sustainable way and sustain that marketing. As in, if I choose to publish books that I think have value beyond 6 months or long term or whatever, or even are urgent for publishing now, and marketing will support that book, not for the first 1 or 2 or 3, but sustain it across time, and to say that these books really need more readers, and we're going to go find more readers for them in whatever way, whether it's social media or all the other things that we think we can do with it. So I think there's a sense of responsibility at the heart of this, which I think we should not be understating. That is, as publishers, what we publish and how we publish actually can change taste as well. We can't just say we are feeding the taste of a certain population. We have to say, how do we also shape that taste? Is there any way in which I can use that person's interest in something to say, and how about a book as well in that line of thinking, So I think we don't perhaps take our own role as people who create content as seriously as perhaps we should. It's not just about revenue, it's not just about profits, all that should follow, but we should also be aware that what we do makes change happen and makes difference. So we should be thinking a lot more about how we publish and what we publish. And I think that's important. And yes, it needs to be cool, it needs to be all these things. But I also sometimes tell myself that, look, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, were we all reading books? Were children being read to when they went to bed? There was no such thing, right? You told stories, you shared stories, and books came along a lot later. The novel, the short story in a published form is much closer to our time than older times. So it's not as though we have this whole foundation which has been shaken by Netflix or other things. The foundation was still being built while all these things came along. So it's not that we have to go back. It's just we have to continuously go forward and find ways of integrating reading with all the other forms of entertainment and leisure we have. So I think a lot of it is also about fundamentally thinking about what we do far more creatively and thoughtfully thinking than perhaps we do in the daily business of publishing.
Thank you for saying this. Ellie?
Yeah, there's so much we discussed today about the challenges of discoverability, and in some ways, I think putting the onus of it purely on the publisher's head is also a bit unfair. It is an ecosystem that we need to nurture and create. And for instance, the media. As you know, it is a shrinking space when it comes to writing about books and about authors. I visit when I visit Kerala, where my family is. It's really lovely to read newspapers there because you see so much being written about books and authors. They stars like I don't know, like movie stars, but at least there is a lot of interest over there. Media. Schools, I think schools is a great way, authors who come to schools and speak to children, so children develop an interest in the authors. What we really lost out are libraries, so much of my childhood was spent in lending libraries and other libraries, and if we can find ways to revive this library culture, neighborhood libraries. I think there are independent people who created community libraries, which are very heartening to hear about, and individual efforts. I think one of the greatest, most lovely story I heard was from a Malayalam author, Vinoy Thomas. He lives in Kannur, and there's a tea shop owner in Kannur who loves books, and he regularly holds literary meetings in his very humble tea shop, and which now has a lot of people attending it. I remember Vivek Shanbhag saying that he went there as well. So it's lovely if things that like that can happen, if that culture can be created, and it has to be effort from different parts, it just can't be the publisher trying to push it constantly.
Right. The Kerala model.
The Kerala model, yes.
Chiragh.
I got the mic. No, just to echo what Ellie and what everyone has been saying. Yes, I think there's something to be said about the opportunity for the library. I think we've just not mourned the library enough in India. We don't have enough libraries. Public and private institutions are not interested in building libraries, running libraries, sustaining libraries. And at a larger level, perhaps we are failing at sort of engaging, sustaining, and building having new people enter the community of readers, right? We're not perhaps doing well, or perhaps we've not figured out how to speak directly to the reader. So the salesperson on the bookshop floor, or the traditionally revered critic, is no more the person or the people or the ecosystem that new readers look to. So the critic is dead, symbolically speaking. People want to, and the algorithm is the critic, essentially. In the algorithmic age we live in, the algorithm has captured the insides of our lives and the outsides of our lives so deeply that perhaps we need to learn the algorithm better. Physical algorithm, the algorithms of community, but also actual algorithms of what is visible, what shows up in our feeds, and what doesn't. The other thing I think I want to do away with is I'm not one to lament what is good literature, what's going to outlive us all, and what's going to survive the ages. The sacrality of what good literature is something we gotta just dump at the doors. And we need to give the people what they want a little bit. So if what is ghost written or is just terribly written, or what we don't regard as high literature, but there's a great appetite for it, We got to publish some of it so that we can slip in what we think is good literature and reel her a little bit towards our side, right? So there has to be a bit of give and take. We cannot keep holding on to what we think is this good definition of literature. That is not going to take us to the futures we want to collectively build.
Okay, I thought we'd given that up already. Amrita.
I think from a marketing perspective, when we do our marketing campaigns, we are only targeting 1% of the audience. And that we need to look beyond, go into tier 2 cities, move into more of tier 2, tier 3 promotions, social media, book events, book launches, and also go back into book clubs, libraries. We have started our Babelfish book club, and a lot of people come and tell us that the books that we present, they had never heard of. So we see a sale of 25 to 30 copies on the day of the event. So I think more B2C initiatives have to come and reaching out to tier 2 cities, which we are not doing right now.
Okay, so before opening this to the audience, I'd like to ask each of you a question. You know, all of you have loads of books lying in your warehouses. Would you, for example, consider putting them out at 100 rupees for young people to buy and read so that no.
No, but why would we want to do that? Why do we have to devalue books? Do we say the same for cosmetics? Do we say the same for other things in the industry?
So my question is a book more valuable because it's lying unsold and unread, but theoretically worth to be sold at 400 rupees? Or is it more valuable if it goes out at 100 rupees and somebody buys it and reads it? Because it's not bringing any money into the company right now. It's just lying there as inventory.
We should do that with Cartier watches and Gucci perfume, perhaps not with books.
Yeah, well, I remember HarperCollins's warehouse sales. People came, they thronged, people wait. There's somewhere a disconnect between, I know you can't help pricing books at the level you price them, but clearly there's a disconnect between what people want to pay and really read for. So maybe technologies can help us there, maybe. Okay, questions from the audience? Oh, lots of questions. Okay, yes. The gentleman here in front, do we have mics? Can we pass them around? Or you can just shout.
I'll speak louder.
Yeah.
So thank you. Fascinating, captivating discussion.
They can't hear you. You'll need the mic.
Thank you for the discussion. It was very captivating. As an economist and a political theorist, I do have certain amount of sympathy to the publishing houses. I'm beginning to be a little bit more sympathetic to that. But one thing that was conspicuous in this last round of questions that you were asking, and in terms of the answers, I didn't hear too much about audiobooks or podcasts. I mean, with the rise of digital tools, what I'm hearing is that there's at least a market of $30 million in India, which is growing at a CAGR of 30%. Impressive because it came from ChatGPT. But the larger point stands. And one quick question to the editors. Why don't you use these tools of GPT and DeepSeek to engage more with the sellers to get some of your points across and then help her make those decisions with the retailers? Have you started incorporating this in your professional lives as well?
Who wants to take that? Go ahead.
There's multiple questions there, no? To the first bit about audiobooks, I did try to I think we've all in our capacities tried to talk a little bit about the multimedia-fication of content and stories at large. And you'll be surprised how much all of us in our individual collective capacities are trying to speak to that market. Every time there's a new technology, they try and also announce a premature obituary for the print book. So when the Kindle and the ebook thing came, and when the gramophone, the radio, and the floppy disk, every time they're like, oh, print will die, print will go. It's not gone. So the ebook segment, which was 20% earlier, which is now dipped, audiobooks has come to occupy that. From what I understand, broadly 20% of the books market is audiobooks. We're all trying to make sure we make, again, it's a very numbers-driven game. So the bestsellers tend to become audiobooks, and publishers are not very keen on producing. It's also an expensive medium. It's an additional cost. They're not very keen on producing, let's say, an Urdu to English translation of an underread 20th century writer that we have recently come to discover, because we're not sure it's done the number in print. So do we know whether it'll at all stick if done in audio? Perhaps we're not thinking this right. On generative AI, it's a very hot subject. There is a great deal of anxiety associated with it. I think and there's a great deal of power vested also to it. We've seen that brief period where when the actors were on strike and directors and writers in Hollywood were on strike, you saw a bunch of films that came out slightly after, and they just, you can tell that the dialogues and everything, all of those bits were so dull. There is something to be said about judgment. There's something to be said about oralities and stories we carry.
About using it to
That's already being done. That's already being done.
I hadn't thought about this. Thank you for that. I hadn't thought about the fact that ChatGPT could be a help to our sales guys. Yeah, exactly. And I'm thankful for that. I hadn't thought about it. But I think this is exactly what we should be doing. We should be telling our salespeople, look, how much we tell you and what we tell you. Editors often speak in a language that is not the language that sales needs to hear and how they can communicate. Whereas this, getting the right prompts for them, might just be the best thing that came out of this for me. Thank you.
Okay.
So the elevator pitch has to be refined, that just a couple of lines, that is easier to remember for a larger team, which AI can help.
Right. Okay. By the way, just there's a whole new business model in audiobooks, which consists of taking out of copyright material, putting out YouTube videos of the recordings, and making money off the ads. So, which publishers are completely out of the loop on. Okay. Yes. Okay. Ajay at the back first, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ajay from Kunzum Books, the new bookstore on the block. This is not personal, and all the panelists are exceptions to what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So in defense of retail, right, because I saw a lot of retail bashing happening here, and Monday is my retail roundtable, please come back for that, right? You are shifting responsibility of your job onto me. My job is not to market and sell your books. I am a channel. I am a part of one of the P's of the marketing mix. Right? So don't put the onus on me and my salespeople, right? When was the last time any of the publishers sent somebody to sit and curate our bookshelves, right? If your salesperson cannot be knowledgeable about 300 titles, how can my salesperson be knowledgeable about 35,000 titles in my store, right? And I have actually told my teams to stop wasting their time with most of the marketing folks in publishing, because they do nothing, exceptions on this panel, right? And Amazon does not create a level playing field because of discounting. And I asked a senior publisher the other day, I said, if I was selling pirated books in my store, will you allow me to sell legit books of your company? He says, no. And I said, then why do you do business with Amazon where so much piracy is happening? So I think we should I think the whole publishing trade needs to, relook at the marketing, the way they create their awareness, the way they help discoverability. I think there are great books coming out. We are very strong on the first P of the 4 Ps product, but we are very weak on everything else. So don't put it on me, the retailer. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. No need. You should make sure to bring retailers into the discussion, certainly, when formulating marketing strategies. Okay. Here, there, and there. Yes.
Hi. So in this, back and forth of what will sell, what will not sell, financial viability, yada, yada. So what about the first time author? Is there a metric that you track individually that this year, these many first time writers are to be launched or are to be considered? Is that given a thought?
Moutushi?
Actually, yes. We do at Penguin discuss that we are going to keep a segment of our publishing plan for debut. Debut literary fiction, debut commercial fiction, all kinds of debuts. So a simple answer to that is yes, we do have a metric, and we do consider, and we think very carefully and choose very carefully, because we have so many people in the team. Say there are 10 commissioning editors, and suppose we want to do 15 debuts in a year, then we allocate and we all think individually about what we have on the publishing plan and how much more space we have. I think, and this is it's a sentiment, I don't know, I think everybody will echo this. In general, editors are excited about debuts. When we read something that resonates with us and this is a writer who has never written again, but we feel can write and will write more in the future and can be built up. I feel that I'm interested when I read that manuscript. I share it with my colleagues in editorial, and they all, if they are also interested, and we all come together and say, hey, I think there is a voice here who can tell a story, then we are instinctively in support of it. Then there is a larger question of how many we can do of that in a year, how many such people can be published. But that's a larger conversation, which is collaborative. But the approach, I think, is not that this is a debut, I don't want to read this. I don't think that is the approach.
Okay, thank you. Yes, over there, I'll come to the two. For somebody there in the middle. Yes, the gentleman with their hand up.
So I love the thought of
We can't see
making
you, yeah.
reading sexy again. Totally for it. And oh, by the way, there has been a lot of work done in terms of what exactly does reading do to our mind? How does it make us actually create and imagine stuff? Which, by the way, if you're going to be aspiring engineers, we really need to learn how to do this reading and then turning it into creative endeavors. Question is, great to see a panel together over here. Is there anything you guys are doing as a forum to work together to actually make that happen, or is it up to the individual publishing house to try to get each one of these things going?
Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah, we don't work together. We should, but we don't.
That was an easy answer. Any thoughts in terms of how would you approach it if you were to do it?
I mean, there are associations and the Federation of Publishers and all of that doing the work they do. But I, like when I started out by saying that I wish, like the media, we had some collaborative efforts to make the business more accountable to us as publishers. And I mean, by the business of distribution and retail also. I think we could do a lot together to combine forces, especially say in the library space. There is a free libraries network, and we all, I'm sure, as individual publishers work with them. But perhaps if we could sit together and find ways of getting more books to them, working ways to find more readers who can use the library and books. You said there are books sitting around unsold. Yeah, yes, there are books that are being returned, that are being pulped. Maybe if there was a way, we would all agree that, yes, this will not go back into the piracy market, or we will make sure that some way these will reach the libraries rather than, sales avenues which do not benefit any of us or the reader. There are many things we could do together if we choose to do them. But I think I
think one clear thing that we must immediately do is talk a lot more against piracy together. That
I agree
is
entirely. Yeah.
the need of the hour. It's urgent.
But who will listen to you? I mean, pirates won't
Whoever, I
listen.
mean, people listen to us.
And readers
See,
will
it's an awareness. Arunava, people buy pirated copies, put in social media, tag authors because they don't know they are buying pirated copies. That is a fact.
No, Rahul, can I ask you one thing?
Yes.
Out of faith.
The point that came off Amazon, somebody said, is it even possible that every publisher in India says to Amazon, you keep pirated copies, you allow sellers to keep pirated copies, none of us will work with you? Now that is real clout. That will bring Amazon to its knees. But would we do it?
50% sales.
We can try.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
would we do it?
We can try. This is what we are saying, and individually what we are saying to them. If it is the same thing, the impact will be there.
Revolution is coming.
Correct.
Yes, over there.
Hello. Please don't take any offense.
We will.
Just wanted to know to what degree has the publishing industry become dependent on so-called paid reviewers that add to confusion for lay readers like us to differentiate between the grain and chaff and actually push books to us which we'd rather be without.
Amrita?
And if yes, can you recommend a couple of websites, couple of individuals whose integrity is sacrosanct and whom we can follow? That okay, if such and such person is recommending a book, it must really be good and worth reading. That's my question.
I think at Westland, we are very careful. We don't work with paid reviewers at all. And I think same is the case for Penguin, HarperCollins, Simon. We don't work with paid reviewers at all. Newspaper spaces like Hindu, Mint, I would say Times of India and Indian Express are all genuine reviews. So No, that's not true. So Times of India is very clear. Times of India's Sunday page, which is the books review page, is a completely unpaid space. And where they're taking money, they very carefully mention it's a special feature or a paid feature. But the advertorial, yeah. But that doesn't happen in the main Times of India. I would say we have very good bloggers we work with. I would say please start subscribing to newspapers. Genuine reviews come in the newspapers. And yeah.
Thank you for not mentioning Scroll.
Scroll, of course, I think.
But sir, publishers may not do it, authors do. Yeah, they get messages all the time. We will pay us so much per review. And you cannot trust reviews on social media sites like Amazon reviews and ratings, Goodreads reviews and ratings, unless you know the reviewer.
Well, I think one more advice, like if you want to find good recommendations, please go to a bookstore nearby and, they won't give you any fake recommendation.
Yeah. Kunjum.
Midland, Kunjum, Blossom.
See, that's the problem. The closest bookstore is 300 kilometers away. How far is the closest liquor store? Blink it. Okay, the lady there.
So my question is directed at Manoj. I think it was really eye-opening you talking about going to a bookstore and picking up a title that I haven't heard of before. But also, like, I have very limited amount of time that I can dedicate to reading, right, with a full-time job, and so does everyone else. So do you think there's some merit in, okay, this book, I've seen it around a lot and a lot of people were raving about it, so maybe I can give it a try and I'm much more likely to like the book than any like new author or new book that I'm picking.
Sorry.
So what's the question?
Do you think there's some merit in like picking up a book that is already popular because it is well read and
why
well
your
loved?
backlist keeps selling?
There's a reason they are bestsellers, or they keep selling more and more copies, or they are talked about.
Last question of the day, last answer of the day. So this has to be really superb.
Well, so I think the merit of picking a best-selling book is that, you're going by the reviews and what the booksellers are recommending. But I think the problem that we were discussing, that readers are not picking up the new, literature that is coming out. And I think the problem remains at every stage of the ecosystem of whether it is channel distribution or creating the marketing hype, sustainable marketing hype, if I have to quote Arunava, and also, the right recommendation of people on the floor in the retail store to guide you through the ones that you should take, and also have, a knowledge of the literature to discuss with you what exactly, you want. Visual merchandise, in a garment store works really well. But I think in a bookstore, we are highly relying upon visual merchandise, and that is the driving factor, which is unfortunate, and which is the reason why we are a dominant backlist market. While, publisher might be happy, we are very safe in the zone that our bestsellers are selling more. But actually, if we look at from the reader's perspective and even from the publisher's perspective, it is not a good state to be in. Your front list, backlist mix should change. And the addressal of the problems at every stage of this ecosystem, which takes on to the consumers, need to be addressed. And the last, Ajay, to just take on your thing is the relay race that has to be won from the publisher to the consumer. Every player in that relay race has to play its role collaboratively rather than depending on the prior person to deliver for the latter one. So everybody has to play the role.
Okay. Manisha, do we have time for one more question from Vasudendra, who's a writer and a translator and a publisher? And one-line question, Vasudendra.
One-line question. So many awards which are coming in the English literature, are they increasing the readership or discouraging the readership?
HarperCollins will answer that because they win all the awards. Also Westland.
They are helping.
they're not helping, Vasudendra. We're not selling any more than we used to sell books that won awards. Nobody cares.
And I would like to add that we have to pay for some awards. Like there's a fee attached to submitting the books, and it's a chunky fee.
Not to win, just
Not to win, just to submit, yeah. Just to submit, yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That we could have gone on all evening, but thank you, everyone.